then soon you can represent the moon. As long as I keep you in tune, I'll tell you who.
Today on the Gregorian calendar, it's April the 20th of 2019. But on my calendar, this is the 31st day of the first division. The Christian world will be celebrating Easter tomorrow on the 21st, and that is because the Catholic Church decided that, long ago they decided this, that the first Sunday after the first full moon, after the sun crosses the vernal equinox, that's the day that Easter should be celebrated. So the moon is obviously important to Christianity, but it's also important to Islam, Judaism, and Ancient Kemit rituals and worship. So I want to read something from the book that I'm writing right now. I have 3 books out on these types of subjects here, history and religion. So I'm going to start, and I'm going to talk about the pyramid text. So Samuel A.B. Mercer has a book out called The Pyramid Text, and he translates it, as best he could, and this was supposed to be one of the best translations of it. I'm going to read from there. He says that this is about the pyramid text and the moon. In Utterance 4:12, verse 732, it says, thou belongest to the Neb, and he has in parentheses stars. I take that word Neb, if you look into the Book of the Dead, Neb, Neb is translated to be by Wallace as lords or rulers, and my study tell me that they were talking about the planets in our solar system, but that's neither here nor there right now. We know it's a celestial thing. So 732 says, thou belongs to the Neb, the stars, the servants of Ra, who are before the morning star. It says, thou will be born again at thy new moon feast, like the new moon, while Ra leans upon thee in the horizon. So here we have people who were living thousands of years before Christ, who wrote these things on stone monuments that are still there, and they were talking about the celestial bodies. They were talking about the sun, the moon, the earth, other planets. And they're talking about Ra leaning upon the moon, and new births or being born again at that time. It's very important to me because in my first book I reveal, that's in this paper, this power, I reveal how it was revealed to me in January 2012 that souls that come to this earth come by way of the moon. I'm just telling you. And when that was revealed to me in the spirit, I hadn't read these things yet. I didn't even know these things existed. Let me go on. Ra leaning upon thee, of course, would be when the sun is directly behind the moon at a new moon, so it's outshining the sun. The moon can't reflect into the sun's light if it's right behind it, so it's dark. We call it a new moon. So it's talking about feast at this time, births coming, new being born again. It talks about feast. That's important because we're going to go into Judaism in the Hebrew Bible, or the Holy Bible, that is the holy book for Judaism. In many verses, chapters and verses, they talk about new moons, Sabbaths, new moon feasts, and observances of the Sabbath. So why is that important? It's important because it shows that there's a relationship between the ancient Kemetans and Judaism. We know that the Egyptians were around long before Judaism or Israelites. So either they got it from them, either the Israelites got it from Egypt or Kemet, or they had the same revelation. In any event, it adds credence to what the Egyptians wrote. It makes more sense. So let me read some more from my book. It says the first biblical mention of a new moon is found in Genesis, the 8th chapter, in the 5th verse, where we are told that the tops of the mountains were seen for the first time since the great flood began. The word month in that verse is used, well, it is translated from H2320 in Strong's Extensive Bible Concordance and Dictionary. That word being translated month is the exact same word that they use for moon or new moon in many places in the Bible. So when they said month, they were just talking about that lunar cycle at some point at the beginning of it or the end of it or the middle of it. The 12th chapter of Exodus records when God determined exactly what month would be considered the first month for the young nation, while the 40th chapter of Exodus introduces the world to the term Passover, which they were to observe every year on the 14th day, or when the full moon occurred in that month, or in the first month after the sun had crossed the vernal equinox. So that whole Easter thing started way back when they wrote that part of the Bible. When whoever wrote that part of the Bible, that's where your Easter started. When people say it's a pagan holiday, they can say what they want to, but this goes back to people who understood this world and what was going on in it. So that was the people who wrote the Bible, supposed to be Israelites, but they got it from people who understood, and we see from the great things built in Egypt, and just a legacy and everything that they were doing that the whole world wants to identify with and still is amazed by. They had this understanding prior to them, so we know it's built in some good there, which is why it's still around today. It doesn't necessarily. Well, I'll stop there. Yeah, so let's go to Isaiah 66, chapter, the 22nd and 23rd verse. But it's supposed to be talking about a distant prophecy that goes beyond the return of Christ and an establishment of peace on earth. So it says, for as the new heavens and the new earth, which I will make, shall remain before me, saith the Lord, so shall your seed and your name remain. And it shall come to pass that from one new moon to another, and from one Sabbath to another, shall all flesh come to worship before me, saith the Lord. So according to the Christian Bible and Judaism, the moon was very important to God, to the one who gave him all his direction. Now, let's look at the Quran. According to the Quran, or according to Islam, the Quran was sent down to the lowest heaven during this month, thus being prepared for gradual revelation by Gabriel to Muhammad. Therefore, Muhammad told his followers that the gates of heaven would be open for the entire month and the gates of hell would be closed. So what month are we talking about? Ramadan. And when does Ramadan begin? It's when the full moon, the first sight of the full moon, or the ninth full moon of a year, which they're calling the ninth month, but it's the ninth full moon. So today, Islam, they're following a calendar that's lunar, and since it's strictly lunar, Ramadan ends up all over the place. It go from month to month to month. Every year it changes about 11 days from wherever it was the previous year. But my calendar, okay, before I go to my calendar, so Ramadan is one of the 5 pillars of Islamic faith, and it is very important to them, and is observed in the 9th month, right? I just wanted to get that straight, and then we're gonna come back to the 9th month because it's important as the Israelite calendar or the Judaism, their calendar, the Hebrew calendar, also observes months by moons, and the 9th moon meant a lot to them during the course of the 9th moon, and just as it did in Islam, because that's when the Quran came down. But also that would be when the Christ came as well. Watch how I make the relation. So on my calendar, the 9th moon or the 9th month would be complete on the 20th day of the 7th division, 263 days into the year, which on the Gregorian calendar would be the 8th day of December. And the 10th moon, or rather after 9 moons and 14 days, that would be the birth. That would be at the point of the birth of the Christ. So that will be on the Gregorian calendar, the 23rd of December. But on my calendar, that'll be the 36th day of the ninth of, no, I'm sorry, the 36th day, the 35th day of the 8th division. Okay. So my point is there's a symmetry there. We're seeing how Islam, Christianity, and my calendar all coming together. Why? And Ancient Kemit. Why? Because this calendar is the true calendar. That's the true calendar. And the people who started those religions, both of them, well, all three of them, Christianity, Islam, Judaism, and the people, they all got it from Kemet, and they all were on the same thing, which you can see the relationship from my calendar. So back to reading from my book. Let me go here. Isaiah 66, 22 and 23, that mentioned both the new moon and the Sabbath, and many other passages in the Bible do as well. The Sabbath, or seventh day, is considered to be Saturn's day, the planet Saturn's day. This is by the Jews. The moon and Saturn must have been honored for different reasons, though their orbits have some type of, they share a similarity. The moon orbits the Earth in 29.22 days, while, according to my calendar, while in the world, let's say 29.5 days, I believe. I'd say 29.2 days. While Saturn orbits the sun in 29.4 years, according to astronomers. So 29 days, the moon orbits the Earth, 29 years, Saturn orbits the sun. So the orbital patterns of these two planets is noteworthy, just as the fact that Saturn has a large 6-point star on it. The 6-point star, of course, is said to be the Star of David. David, who the Bible tells us was the second king of Israel, a story that is at best an exaggeration about the life of an Amorite sheik, and a flat-out fabrication at worst, because I don't think it was true. Anyway, I talk about that in my book, In the Spirit of. In any event, so like I said, in any event, Saturn and the moon both often are in play when a soul departs this realm. The moon is responsible for the soul's coming, or the entity that's behind the moon, and it's also in play or responsible for when souls leave this realm. But Saturn is often in play as well. I talk about this in my book, In the Spirit of. Okay, so one of Saturn's roles is that of the opposer. Jupiter and the sun both give. The sun is giving information and guidance, but Jupiter is just the benevolent one. They both give while Saturn takes away. Saturn adds to the whole by taking away a part of it, just as it does in the human body, where it is represented by the excretory system. I talk about this in the Spirit of, and the excretory system and the kidneys and the bladder, which are the main organs of that system. The moon, in its dual roles, is represented by the endocrine system, the glands which secrete liquids. And by the way, mammary gland, okay, is governed by the moon. Mammary gland, the plains of Mamre, where Abraham was serving God or worshiping God, where the word plains is really groves, or the trees of Mamre. We talk about motherly things, nurturing things, the moon things, the God he was serving, feminine entity. The other role is the integumentary system, the skin, which secretes as well. That has to do with the outer part of the sun, the part of the moon that faces away from the earth. Anyway, clearly the writers of the Bible knew more than what is made obvious to the reader. After all that I just said to put in this video, it should be clear to you that it is a matter of fact that there is more to the moon than meets the eye. Look, I hope you got something out of this. I'll come with the next video probably in another month. And the moon, right? Look at that picture of the moon. This is from maybe 2015, but I love that picture I took. All right, fam. Peace.